Hi, I'm miltonchang of Bonsaiheirloom. I'd like to repot this, I'm not sure what exactly it is. I think it's probably a hybrid between Japanese and Korean hornbeam. I bought about 50 of these trees from a seedsman, from a nursery, and as Korean hornbeam. Out of these, maybe half of them, really, the leaves are much bigger than Korean hornbeam. So I didn't like this because the leaves are a little bit bigger, or quite a bit bigger than the Korean hornbeam. So I just let it grow a while, and then didn't think it was very good shape. So I just let it grow in the ground, and finally dug it up maybe 8 years ago and started working on it. And it's starting to look okay. So today I'll repot it and show you the thought process behind repotting and about making a bonsai and some principles behind it. With that in mind, then let me work on this tree. First of all, I'll take it out of the pot, and you can see the moss is growing quite nicely. We spread our moss around. Okay, with that in mind, let me take it out of the pot. I don't usually tie my tree to the pot because I don't think I would ever or would very often tilt the tree that much that the tree will fall out of the pot. This way, I don't have to waste time doing it. And also, what I do is I root prune the tree, especially deciduous trees, by putting a layer of barrier. In this case, I used a shade cloth, high percentage shade cloth. They're very hardy, but you can see as the roots grow through it, it gets pruned, and I'll put it back into this pot that I'll be using again, and I cut off the redundant parts later. But what you can do is that you can cut off the long roots to encourage fibrous roots to grow, and that keeps the tree hydrated and healthy. And so one of the reasons for repotting is actually for reshaping the tree to orient it to show its best. And I'm peeling off the moss to put it back again, to spray, either to put it back in pieces or spread it so that it would fill out the entire bottom, which is quite easy and more uniform, growing like a lawn. You can see not vigorous roots for this tree, but nonetheless, there's a lot of fibrous roots. And so when you repot the tree, let me come to the front to show you. You want to reorient the tree to maximize the display, to show the tree at its best. So this tree has one big flaw. That is, the bottom branch should be much thicker than the top branch, yet it's thinner, which it could happen in nature, but I would rather like to thicken this branch. So one of the techniques I will describe today, and also in the next video, is so-called the sacrificial branch. What I will do is I'll stake this branch up, and the branch that goes up tend to grow faster, and I'll let a lot of leaf grow so that this branch would eventually get a lot of the sap from the roots and become a thick branch, and then I can cut it off later. But in the meantime, it will thicken this branch. And now, I think maybe one way to do it is to make this the front, to accentuate this cut and de-emphasize this small branch until this gets thicker. So now let me try this pot to see if it looks good. And I chose this pot for a couple of reasons. One is it's relatively flat. And then the second reason is that for deciduous tree, you want to show off the tenderness of the growth in the sense of the soft greenness. And so what I would do is that's why I picked this green color pot, which not something you want to do usually for evergreen tree. So let me play with it a little bit more. Well, when I do this, this branch is sticking out behind, which it's okay, but I don't want to cut this the root. So, but this, now let me see if I do it this way. Yeah, that doesn't look too good. So I'm a little bit stuck by having this angle, and then this, well, let me see what's underneath of this one. Maybe I can cut it off if there's enough fibrous roots. So you see, this is really a stub. The fibrous roots start here, and there are a lot of fibrous roots back here. So if I cut off this branch to fit the pot, in some sense out of necessity, I will not slow down the tree too much. You see, this is the where it began to have fibrous roots. There's not much fibrous roots at all, so this part is not really doing much to help the nutrient. So if I cut off here, it's not the end of the world. Now if I put it back, I can shove it back a little bit more. And then this trunk is also, this root is also a little weird because it's kind of like going backwards. So let me see what's underneath of here. So the point is, if you look at my trees, all the roots are well positioned. They didn't happen by accident. So you can see this root is fed by this fibrous roots. So if I cut off here to make this look more natural, eventually the root will be going this way. It's not that big a deal. So with that in mind, then I really have two branches to cut off, two roots to cut off. One is here, one is there. And this one, it's a little bit grotesque, but until this one established, hopefully something will grow out of here, then I'll keep this remaining or cut this off, make it a shari. But I think in the meantime, that's what I'll do is cut off these two ends. So this root does have some fibrous roots out here, so it is a bit of a setback for the tree, but it will heal, not a problem. And then this one, I said I'll cut off here because that's where it begins. Just do what you can to whatever tools you got on hand to get rid of the branch, whatever branch you want to cut off, not cut off anymore. And I would thin out the bottom as much as I can because I'm putting in a flat pot, in a sense, very shallow pot, and I should try to cut the roots off fairly flat. There's no reason why I couldn't use the original soil. That's just my standard soil mix. Nothing wrong with it. I can always add fertilizer to replenish it. And I can always cut the root pruning screen off a little bit. This tree is almost, this branch is somewhat behind this nod to less accentuate the back, the lack of a good, the thick side branch. I should try to turn this up a little bit so the tree is bent, the front is more up front. So you see, that's not a bad looking tree. Yeah, and this bottom branch, you usually have the space behind it. So with that in mind then, in fact, let me go get some of my new soil mix, which is an improvement over this version a few years back. One of the things you want to do when you repot a tree is to always firm up the bottom of the soil so that the roots are in contact with the soil and not leave air gaps, which can cause problem for the roots, in a sense, not getting enough water or nutrient or something. And what you can do is that you firm up the soil by sticking it underneath, and then you add water and let it run out. And to further firm it up, I did try to put the moss layer up on top back into the pots, although that's not essential, because I will be spreading some of the moss powder over the thing to eventually make it look like a lawn, or a meadow for that matter. It should be a meadow. So in the meantime, I clip off some of the long branches to make it look more refined. But there's plenty of time to do this. So today what I did is I want to make several points, is that when you have a tree that you don't really care about, put it in the ground and neglect it for a while, let it grow out wild, follow the natural tendency, and then when you look at it again, you may see opportunities, just like this one. I did not like it because it's not a Korean hornbeam per se, because the grower collects his own seeds, and it's probably got self-crossed in the field. But on the other hand, there's nothing wrong with a cross between a Korean and a Japanese hornbeam. You can see the interesting marking, and someday when its ramification increases, it will look more full, and the leaves will reduce in size. And so I planted this in a growing pot about 8 years ago, and it grew, and I work on it gradually. I now have a possibility. And then one of the problems with this tree is that the bottom branch is much thinner than the ones on top, which should be the opposite. On the other hand, I de-emphasize it, put the front up front, this scar. And I can always say there was a big branch here before. It died off due to whatever, and then this little guy comes up. And then what I'll do is use a sacrificial branch to thicken this branch by let it grow. And also not prune much up here, let this grow tall, so that when I clip it, this little apex will look more in line with the bottom thick on this of the branch. I think that's pretty much it. And for a kind of an upright tree, oftentimes you want to put it in a shallow pot to accentuate your skill to keeping bonsai alive, but also let the soil come down this way to give you a feeling of span in a shallow pot. You can even use a fairly big shallow oval pot for this tree. And I again remind you to put root pruning fiber, in a sense, a perforated sheet to cut the roots as it grows to induce more fibrous roots. I think that's all the things I can think of to conclude this video. So again, thank you very much for watching. Click like if you think I'm being informative, tell a friend, and subscribe to our channel, and go to our website so we can send you a notice, sign up for our mailing list. So with that in mind, I thank you very much for watching. I see you next week.